Coming to you live from across America, the most dangerous people in the United States. It's the Trans Narrative Podcast.
Aria, it's so good to have you here. How are you today?
It's so good to be here. I am fantastic.
That's so good. Cynthia Grace, it's so good to have you back with us. How are you?
Oh, I am doing fine. Your favorite bad girl, the Black Hills, is doing very good this week.
That's good. That's good. And joining us today is our guest co-host, Logan Young. Logan, how are you?
Absolutely splendid, thank you.
Yes. And joining us today, all the way from Arkansas, Alura O'Shaunacy. How are you?
I am fabulous. How are you?
So good. So good to have you here with us today.
Thank you. Thank you
Okay.
for having me.
Yeah. And before we get started, I think it's really important that we get a little background on who you are. So, do you mind telling us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, of course. I'm 23 years old. I am a trans male. I identify with pronouns he, his, him. I am honestly just, an active person thriving to try to find, balance between a lot of love and just connecting with people. I am an active member in recovery from addiction, and am just really looking forward to, growing within myself, my self-love, and finding people in the LGBTQ community.
Absolutely love that. Well, we're so glad to have you here with us today, joining us as
Thank
our
you.
guest co-host. Alora, it's so good to see you finally again with us this season.
It's nice to be seen. Nice to be seen. Again, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. For those that don't know, Alora was actually here with us last season, but due to some technical difficulties, they were not able to be present in the show with us. So they're here with us again to give us the dose of Alora. So excited to have you here.
Just a small little pinch of Alura.
So, Aria, what have you been up to lately?
I know, the usual church camp.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing going on with me.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord
Church
said, "Do
camp?
not lie."
I'm doing the Lord's work.
Are you? Are you?
Always.
Well, I'm so glad to have everyone here with us. Cynthia, it's good to see you. You look fabulous as always. I love your hair. I'm jealous of it.
I thought I'd go with a little bit more of a Cruella de Vil look today.
Yes,
You're nailing
Cruella
it.
de Vil.
All right.
We kind of match. You kind of got the whole black, white, and red thing going on.
Yep.
So I never know how to start these things. So we're just gonna jump right into it. So Alora, hi. You're currently in Arkansas, and we sat down with a panel of Arkansas activists last season when the opinion of Roe v. Wade broke back in April, and it was atrocious. And what do you know? They did exactly what they said they were going to do for 50 years. And now we are here where they're saying the same thing about the LGBTQ plus community. And if we've learned anything from our past, they're going to do what they say they're going to do because that's who the Republican Party is. So
Yep.
let's talk on that a little bit, if you don't mind.
So, one of the things that I've always lived by is history has a way of repeating itself. We see time and time again that of history repeating itself. I mean, it's one of the things where we're constantly having to fight because it's constantly the same bullcrap that keeps happening. Same rights keep going down the drain. We keep fighting to tell people that we are humans just like they are. And it's exhausting and infuriating that we can't seem to get that point across. You would think after RuPaul's Drag Race that this would be a bit more normal to some demographics, but it's not. It's not. And to see lawmakers actively ignoring real issues and only solely focusing on the queer community is very disheartening. It's almost like the other side of the voters don't care about the actual issues. They only care about preserving their puritanical white governmental crap. They don't want to think of anything else. They want what they want. They want what they think the Bible says and what they think God wants. But they're doing a lot more harm, all under the guise of saving the children. In recent outings of pedophiles and molesters, nowhere on any of the lists that I read was there a trans person or a drag queen. But you know who were the ones perpetrating these acts against little kids as young as 2, 3, 4 years old? White cis men in power. Now, if you ask me, that's history repeating itself, because the church is doing something they're not supposed to be doing, while also those same people in those churches are condemning others they find unattractive to their lifestyle. And that don't sit right with me. Right with me. Oh my God. Learn how to speak, Alura. It's an ever revolving door that we're going to have to continuously keep pushing open to be seen as equal to everyone else. It's the same, and don't even get me started on Black trans women. They have it the worst out of all of the queer community. Black trans women have it the worst simply because other queer people, especially white queer men, don't see Black trans women as what they're supposed to be. They see them as an object to be admired. And they are, don't get me wrong, they are. But they are constantly the ones having to live in fear of being shot simply for walking out their door. I can take all this off and present one way. A lot of trans people can't. And a lot of trans people don't want to, because that's not their truth. And it's so saddening to see the same people over and over and over again being treated with less and less dignity. It's like, it's honestly just unfathomable how in the last 100 years we seem to have progressed and then shot right back down and regressed. They want a society like it was in the 1950s. But even in the 1950s, guess who were still there in the background? Trans women. We are not going anywhere. We have been here since the dawn of time. You can try to erase our history. They can try to pass these laws to ban drag shows. They can try to make anti-trans bathroom laws. But case in point, we're not going anywhere.
So,
Just,
Laura, I have a question for you. When you first started doing drag, did you, I guess, like have some sort of realization that it was going to be as, I guess, political and like, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess, like, you know, kind of in a sense, sorry, I literally can't with English either today. I don't know, just like fighting for rights. Did you think that, or when you first started drag, was it kind of just like more of, you know, you getting to express yourself, or was it also kind of in the sense of, you know, getting to be able to fight politically, I guess, for trans rights, if that makes sense?
Okay, so drag in and of itself is a political statement. Drag is literally going against the grain of society. I mean, at the end of the day, what they see on stage is someone who is dressing outside of their normal gender for the act of art, for the sake of art. When I first started, I did it mainly for the artistry. And then I quickly realized that by simply existing in this art form, it is a political statement. I personally, I tend not to be in politics, especially where I live, especially in the South. It can get real heated real fast. So I usually say what I have to say and leave it there. I don't argue with people. I don't do any of that. I have no time for it. I have no room for it in my life. So I tend to watch from the background and form my opinions there, and I read and educate myself. And then when I come across like a friend who needs help understanding something, that's when I start, okay, well, if we look at this politically, this is what's happening, and this is where we're going, and this is what happened in the past. So I would say for me, like I said, drag is, in and of itself is political, but I did not start doing drag to be in politics. It's just one of those things where I happen to already be speaking politically by just being a drag queen.
Completely.
What got you into drag in the first place, Alura?
Okay, so when I was a real young little kid, I was about 4 or 5, I started dancing. I did ballet, tap, jazz, contemporary, hip hop, ballroom. If you could put music and movement to it, I was probably doing it. Um, I did that all from the age of 5 to about 17. And when I was 17, I injured myself to the point where I was no longer able to dance. Um, and when I was 18, I went to my very first drag show. And that's where I found the love of drag. It was actually something we used to have in Little Rock called Queer Prom. And it was the very first drag show I ever saw. And I didn't pick it up at 18. I dabbled in it. I dabbled in makeup a little bit at 18, but I never really did anything serious as far as the art form of drag. And when I was 20, I was working at a retail store in the mall. I had a friend who was now a former drag king, and he got me into it over at Club Sway in Little Rock. And that's how I started. It's just this one friend saying, "Oh, you'd be so good at drag. You're so energetic, and you love makeup, and you love art. So you should give it a shot." And I put my first pair of lashes on and never looked back.
Alura, I made a
Hmm.
mistake. We forgot to
Uh-oh.
introduce you. So, we need to do that really quick. So Laura, yes, I'm so sorry. I was going to do it at the end, but somebody brought that to my attention, so I want to get that out of the way really quick before we go any further. So, Aria,
I'm sorry. What did you want me to say, Caroline? Yeah, you
I
kind of put
sent
me on
you
the
to.
spot here.
I did. Will you
Yeah,
introduce?
you take the lead. You take the lead.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So, Alora, could you tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started and go any further?
Yes, my name is Prism Hollow. I'm better known as Alura O'Shaunacy. I'm a trans, non-binary individual right here in Central Arkansas. I have been performing as Alura O'Shaunacy for 7 years, and in that 7 years, I found that I'm not a cis man. Shocker. Um, I have known nothing but a loving and beautiful community full of wonderful, beautiful people here in Arkansas. And nationwide, every queer event I've ever been to, whether it be a pageant, whether it be a pride, I have always been welcomed with open arms within the queer community. Um, I one of my goals in drag is to show people that there is more than one way to do drag, but there's also more than one way to live life. There's no cookie cutter way to live. There really isn't. And that's what I've always done with Alura, is to show people um, that you don't have to go with what society wants you to do. You can be whoever you want. So that's a bit about me. I'm also a Cancer, born in
What is that?
July.
Oh, is that horoscopes? Oh, yes, I remember those.
Yes, I'm a Cancer. I like musical theater. a lot. I don't know any drag queen who doesn't love musical theater. You'd be very hard pressed to find them. I know they exist. I ran into one time, but cheap as a
Well,
bell.
speaking of
We love
drag,
her.
did you know that somebody in this room right here has also and currently does drag as well?
Who
Me.
is it? Yes. What is your stage name?
My stage name is Virgo the Vixen, and just for the record, I am a Virgo.
Yes, Virgo the Vixen. I love that. I wish my
Uh,
name was a little more creative.
yeah, basically, some of the more like taglines that I use: Queen of the Shadowlands, Keeper of the Golden Rose, and my personal favorite, Bad Girl, the Black Hills. Because
Yes.
I just love being this bad girl. I use a lot of metal music for my medium. I'll break out whips. Sometimes I'll, go with more leathery costumes than the normal glam. And
Please say
just
you perform in this moment a lot.
I've used that too.
Yes, I love in this moment. Marie is
I've
actually one of the reasons why I bought this wig.
let me see. I've used in this moment within Temptation, Hailstorm. Let me see who else. I've used Joan Jett, Lita Ford are some good ones. Halo Scene is another one. Mini Nerva.
Yes.
I
A lot
pronounced
of my
your last
inspiration.
name wrong, Alura. I'm so sorry, by the way. I
What do you
pronounced it
mean?
Alura. I said Chauncey, and that's not the correct way of
Oh no, it's
pronouncing it.
O'Shaunacy. So back
Shaughnessy. I
before
love
I
that.
came out, back before I came out as trans, I didn't. First of all, I didn't name myself Alura O'Shaunacy. My best friend named me. So none of my drag is really original down to my name. But I'm half Irish, and I had another best friend who called me Shaughnessy after the Irish traditional Irish name O'Shaughnessy. And so my best friend was like, "Oh, that would be a cute name. Your drag is very alluring, so you can go by Alura." And then this is out of myself, but if you listen to O'Shaughnessy, my dead name is in there, so it's O'Shaunacy. So it's Alura O'Shaunacy.
Oh
So
God.
I've been Alura O'Shaughnessy for 6 years, and then I came out as trans, and I was like, "Oh, well, cat's out of the bag. Can't change it now. I've already been this far."
Yeah, Alora, I had a question for you. So you're maybe our third or fourth guest who has fallen down the drag performer to transgender pipeline. Would you agree with my theory that being a drag performer is a gateway drug to becoming trans?
No, 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 absolutely not.
Okay.
I think what we're saying is a lot of trans people who end up being performers first, they're finding out through the performing that, oh wait, I am trans. I am not a
Mm.
male outside of this. But you also still have a bunch of different performers who are not trans, who are cisgendered, who are non-binary, who are but that's a common misconception is that just because we're drag queens, we're all trans. No, that's not the case. It just happens to be we find ourselves through the art form of drag.
Yeah, I know. It was a joke.
Well,
Yeah.
don't.
But what was that experience like for you? Like finding yourself through drag performance. Can you describe that a little bit?
Okay, so it really hit me. I'd always, before I started doing drag, I always said that I was androgynous. That was the
Mm.
term before non-binary was around. It was androgynous. And even when I started performing, I kept a bit of that androgyny with me, that terminology with me, even in my daily life. And then it wasn't until I was listening to some random song for a drag show that I was getting ready for. Um, and I looked in the mirror and I said, I'm a woman. Wait a minute. Why is this particular song? You know what I was listening to?
What?
I was listening to Cardi B the cow song.
Fantastic.
And I looked in the mirror and in the middle of the song, I don't know what about the song made me realize that, oh, wait. But I was sitting there going, I'm a cow. I'm a cow. And I stopped and I looked in the mirror and I said, I'm a woman. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So that started a whole other conversation. I called my therapist. I was like, I'm a woman. And she was like, are you sure? And I know you've always said you're non-binary, but I was like, I'm positive. Like, I've always felt more comfortable presenting as a Laura. I've always felt more comfortable in feminine clothing and wigs and lashes and makeup. Um, so that was my experience as coming to realization. I had always known that I was different, even when I was in drag. I always looked at people like Sasha Colby and Tommy Ross, who are legendary trans women, and they're also legendary performers. I always thought that I wanted to be just like them, but only as a performer. And then I actually got to meet them and I talked to them outside of drag, and I realized, talking to other drag queens who were trans, that I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's I'm not a man outside of this. I don't like taking my wig off and looking in the mirror, and seeing someone I'm not. So that was really my experience. I always known that modern day drag is because of Black trans women. I always knew that, even starting drag, I knew that. I really didn't think I would find myself. Oops, sorry. I didn't really think I would find myself through drag, but I did, and here I am. I start hormones in a month, and I start my name change in a month, and it's been kind of a whirlwind, from when I first looked in the mirror listening to Doja Cat to now going, I'm more comfortable and confident in who I am. I know what anybody perceives me as is not who I am.
Yeah.
That's their perception of me.
Mm.
So it's been a very interesting time figuring out me.
Yeah.
I should say.
Well, Laura, you and I have, believe it or not, a lot in common. First of all, we are both trans. We are both drag performers. We both live in red states that are governed by female governors who have an IQ lower than Forrest Gump.
And that's saying something, because Forrest Gump wasn't all that dumb.
Yeah, because like I said, in the movie, his IQ was like 70. And I guarantee you, my governor of South Dakota, who I call Barnyard Barbie, can easily, set the bar lower.
I wouldn't even call the Arkansas governor Barbie. I wouldn't even put her in the same classification. Maybe one of the, you remember those old cloth dolls that had no face?
Yes.
That were play. Yeah, she kind of reminds me of one of those. Just sit in a corner and hush.
So, Alura, I know that you've mainly lived in Arkansas, correct? What has made you want to stay in Arkansas for drag?
Nothing.
Nothing in particular.
I don't want to be in Arkansas. I'm gonna say that now. Yes, I've got a great community here. I've got lovely friends. My drag parents are here. All my drag family is here. There's nothing in Arkansas that's keeping me here other than the fact that it's cheaper to live here.
Understandable.
And that's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, there's nothing in Arkansas really keeping me here. I've got my family and friends here, but I mean, they would all want to see me live elsewhere. It's just a matter of, it's just cheaper to live here.
Well, I would like to get your thoughts, since we're both performers, about, this is just my opinion, is the horrendous laws that are being passed in various states. Tennessee, it's outlawed. I know in other states like mine, they're really seriously thinking about it. And I think like Idaho and, like I said, other places. What is your thought about them banning our form of artwork?
You have to look at these laws and look past the word drag. If the law has the word drag in there, they are trying to police people and how they dress and act in their daily lives. When you really look at it, these aren't anti-drag bills. These are anti-trans bills. yes, they're going to affect the drag community, but they're going to affect the daily life of trans people as well.
Well, Oklahoma is a great example because there is a law being passed. Basically, the definition of drag is anyone who wears like flamboyant clothing that doesn't fit their gender or something like that. And if they perform in public in front of a minor, they can get up to 2 years in prison.
Yep, it's honestly just quite deplorable that we as a nation have gotten to the point where we're actively banning drag shows. Now, do I feel that drag has a time and a place and a style for that audience? Yes. That I purposely don't do a lot of open age shows, all ages shows, because my type of drag isn't necessarily PG, and I don't like to censor myself. But there are drag artists who love children, who love performing for children, who love reading to children, who just love children in general and want to see children prosper and grow to be loving human beings. But these people who are trying to get these bills passed, they don't see that. They see something out of the norm that they do not like, and they want to attack it. It has nothing to it has nothing to do with drag. Honestly, let's be real. If they really had a problem with drag, they would have had a problem in the 80s with Tu Wong Fu. They would have had a problem with the 90s with Robin Williams. If they really had an issue with drag, they would stop watching Tyler Perry.
Well, you brought some interesting points, and I think I want to talk to you about this concept for the children. That's the excuse they use. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll be the first. I'm not the best researcher, but last time I checked, and I could be wrong, at any drag show, 0 children were harmed, 0 children were killed, correct?
Correct.
All right.
I have never been to a drag show where they harmed a child, so.
Yep, because last time I checked, every child who goes there, they're happy. They're having a good time. They're having
and they
fun.
are with their parents or an adult that is responsible for them.
But the same people who are passing anti-laws against trans women through the drag community have no problem deregulating guns. They don't have a problem making sure that every person in America has a gun. And according to the latest government statistics, the most the childhood death, the one that causes the most childhood death is guns. What's your thoughts on that?
See, growing up in the South, I'm quite used to being around guns. I really am. But it's one of those things where it's up to the parents to teach. If you're going to have guns in the house, it's up to the parents to teach gun safety, because there is a right and wrong way to handle a gun. Now, as far as drag queens harming children, I said it before and I'll say it again. The people who are going to jail and going on trial for molesting children are grown cis white men, not drag queens, not trans people, grown men, grown white men in power. I mean, not all white men, but cisgendered men in general who have
because
power. They're the ones doing
profile of what you said, cis, white, male, and I hate to break some snowflakes bubble, but guess what? They're mostly right wing or Republican.
Yep, right wing and Republican every single time. And don't get me started on them priests. Don't get me started on the churches.
Oh, I'll tell you what,
because they're the world's worst.
Separate episode about that, because I guarantee you, me and you could fill up a whole episode just off that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I will say, I've been seeing a lot on Facebook, especially Facebook, saying that church is not for children and kids should not be at churches. I don't think that's right. I think it's up to the parents. And it's up to the parents to decide what to do with their child until that child becomes of age to tell them no. Now, not a lot of parents are going to follow that. They're going to follow the rule of, well, you're 18, you're my child until you're 18. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I'm not a parent. I don't really get that decision. But I think if you want your child to grow up in a church, that's fine. Don't force it on them. Please don't force religion on children. But to say that children don't belong in church, that's ludicrous. I mean, I've known churches, I'm not a Christian myself, but I do know very progressive churches who are open to the LGBTQ plus community, that children are very much welcome in and are safe in. But it's there's an issue in America with separating religion and politics. And the moment we clear that up is the moment we'll stop having these issues of having to fight for our right to live, to simply exist. Once we take religion out of politics, I think we'll be safe. But we're not going to have, that's not going to happen. Like America was founded on religious freedom, but religious freedom from an oppressive group. And they're using that same religious freedom to oppress certain individuals and groups. And it's just not right.
Well, Logan, I want to ask you a couple questions since you are probably the youngest one here. What are your current thoughts on, drag performers performing for children, for example?
Honestly, I was just thinking about that. Personally, for me, it's like I haven't necessarily gone to a drag show personally, but I've been to many prides. I live in Colorado, so Denver Pride is super big, very popular. And then, I mean, personally for me, I have always seen children and younger kids their drag performances at Pride happening. I mean, I've never really like thought that was an issue. I mean, I think that kind of like Alura said, it's kind of up to the parents in a sense, like what they want to do with their kids. But I don't I don't see any kind of wrong in having kids watch somebody expressing themselves and purely enjoying being in the moment with themselves and with other people. I think that there's nothing wrong with it. And to hear that there are people especially in other states that aren't as welcoming to the LGBTQ community, having such an issue with their kids seeing somebody just purely enjoying themselves and an art form really is it's quite hard. It's saddening. It's really sad.
Well, let me ask you another question. Have you know any person or heard of any person, a young person being forced or an adult forced to go to a drag show?
Never in my life. No, never have I ever had or heard anyone being forced to do that.
Yeah, we're going to dispel this myth that we're just basically grabbing people, throwing them in the shows, or taking kids and bringing them there because the way you hear the politicians talk, that's what they're basically making us out to be. But here's the thing: I think a lot of people are neglecting is it's by choice, because I'm pretty sure the kids who are there, most of them probably have a parent, one or two parents there supporting them. Am I wrong?
No, I wouldn't say so. I would say most of the time I do see the young kids with parents, but then again, there are kids also running around just by themselves. Definitely, I think that I don't know. I don't see it as an issue. I think that it is quite crazy to think that there are people out there that, have a completely fine, line of being able to watch people on TV and in movies dress as the opposite gender. But then when it comes down to someone doing it for themselves or as a career or, for a community, then it's completely not okay. I mean, kids watch movies with people dressing, in different or, in not their gender norm clothing all the time. And it's not ever really talked about as like, oh, that's going to make our kids not or like our kids want to like, do that. I don't know. I don't think that that's, fair.
I
Well,
think
these
the
pop-
logic is not applicable in these cases with these people because they use the language, oh well, they're forcing this, that, and the other, but like they must be aware, and if they are, they just don't care. I just think it's they don't care because they are the ones forcing this, and they're sitting there gaslighting this nation. So what we need to do is we need to learn how to deal with gaslighting narcissists and learn how to deal with those abusers because that is what these people clearly are, and they're oppressors. So we need to treat them as such. They are oppressors and they're abusers, and they are against human rights. I mean, that's truly the fact. I've had conversations. I have a fake TikTok account where I follow the transphobia because it allows me to see what's being said. Unfortunately, the algorithm caught on that I'm a communist still. So, but for the last few weeks, I was able to get the transphobia. I don't get it now. And it's atrocious. They literally are not based in logic. And I was told that, oh, you're generalizing. I'm not a Republican, this, that, and the other. And it's like, it doesn't matter if you're not like a Republican, because if your ideologies match with that party, then you are a part of that. And you can denounce that you are not that, but you are still alt-right. Like it doesn't matter if it's Republican, alt-right, conservative, it's the same thing, which is oppressors, which is literally what Cynthia knows all too well about in the 1930s. That's what this is. I mean, they started with trans and non-binary people in the 1920s. They burned Magnus Hirschfield's laboratory. He was a leading sexologist. They didn't tell us in high school that the books that they were burning were the books talking about sex and gender and different people. Like those were the books that they were burning. Here I was in 10th grade thinking, oh, they burned books. It must be Fahrenheit 451 in 1984, this, that, and the other. And I didn't connect the dots because they convinced us that those books were written about other countries, and really they were actually talking specifically about this country. So,
Speaking of books, one of my favorite series is The Hunger Games. And I'm really excited to see this prequel, the series that they're doing about the events that take place. Because it's always been fascinating to me. The Hunger Games is about children murdering each other for the sake of their society. Because this power up here tells all these people, and it trickles down, that they're the higher ups, they're the low lives. I've always found kind of a similarity between the Hunger Games and what happens here in America. There are these people up in power who say, this is how we should think. This is how things should be. And it trickles down. And it trickles down to the lowest common denominator. And it's an observation. You were talking about books. I'm sorry. Just the correlation. It's funny how life imitates art. I'm not saying that America is going to go into a Hunger Games situation. I don't think we're that far gone, I hope.
Yeah, I think a big part of the issue is Republicans have what I like to call a status quo bias. Like they don't think of themselves as having a political agenda, whereas they think of the LGBT community as having a political agenda. So when you bring up issues like, say, a lot of red states still have like child beauty pageants, or they indoctrinate their kids into religion or what have you, they don't see anything wrong with that because that's in their minds that's apolitical. That's just normal.
Right.
Complete double
They
standard.
absolutely do not see anything wrong with it because it's what they were raised to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
I call it the John Wayne mentality. If men have to follow this set of paradigms, women have to follow this set of paradigms. And if you don't follow them, then you are labeled as one of the others.
Yep.
Something that's
We are
crazy to me in general is just like in history, I definitely like, have or just remember learning that like, way back in the day during like, I guess, when there were kings and queens in England and all that, the higher up people, the people who, were wealthy, like wore dresses and way fancier clothing and were able to have the luxury of like, I guess, like, definitely having nicer clothes, spending time on doing like their hair and like worrying about how they looked. But now in society, that is looked at as like, oh, either feminine or, you know, gay if you're a guy. Like, you can't care about yourself. You can't wear heels or anything that resembles like a dress, something that's not tight on your body. But it's like literally back like hundreds of years ago, it's like men were literally wearing skirts and wigs and heels and dresses, and it wasn't this like
Because
taboo
all of
thing
the
of like,
stuff-
oh, they're trying to be the other gender. It was just normal.
Each week on the Trans Narrative Podcast, we want to highlight a piece of the bigger stories that impact our lives, the laws and attitudes and cultures that can help or hinder us as transgender people in the United States. The stories that cisgender people want to tell for us or about us are going to be missing in critical details. They won't help us to clear up our perspective. We want to show how we've struggled, how we are struggling, and also how we will overcome. On February 16th, 2023, pharmacist Gwendolyn Herzig, when being interviewed for a hearing on a transgender bill by Senator Matt McKee in Arkansas, was asked a very specific question. I've got audio here.
Evidence?
I will repeat what I just said.
Are you unaware of that
I will
body of
repeat what I
evidence?
just said.
You said that you're a trans woman.
I trans female, yes, ma'am, sir.
Do you have a penis?
That's horrible.
You're the one that brought that into the discussion.
I
You're the one that
never
brought that
said
into
anything
discussion.
about genitalia.
Oh, it
Is
has
there-
everything to do with it, I tell you.
I don't know what my rights are for right now. I'm not through with questions, but I'm not going to answer that question. That's
Okay.
highly inappropriate.
Again, you can say that, and that's your right. So,
Okay, I'm a
there any
healthcare
other-
professional,
are
a
there any
doctor.
other
Please
questions?
treat me as such.
Listen, I talked to a 10-year-old girl back in the fall, and you know where she got her idea to have one of these surgeries? Off of TikTok. Because the Chinese were showing this little girl on TikTok who said, "This has changed my life." So now we're getting our information from the Chinese Communist government on how to keep these surgeries going. Stop going along with this language games that they've created. These ideologues want us to play. There are men, women, boys, and girls. There's no such thing as having a place on a gender spectrum. It's true for horses, it's true for cows, it's true for dogs, it's true for every other species on the planet.
It doesn't matter how long you go to church. It doesn't how long how many people you marry. If you're transgender and you're truly transgender, you'll be transgender. It's how you deal with this. And I don't want the youth of Arkansas to be in bondage and not be able to do something about their condition. Therefore, this law is unnecessary and unneeded, and I ask the committee to vote no.
thank you.
And welcome back to 4029 News on the Record. Joining us now is Dr. Gwendolyn Herzig, owner of Park West Pharmacy in Little Rock. Dr. Herzig, please tell us a little bit about your background and why you felt propelled to head to the Senate Judiciary Committee in Little Rock this week to speak against Senate Bill 199.
No, for sure. So I own Park West Pharmacy out of Little Rock, Arkansas. We really focus on minority healthcare, especially LGBTQ healthcare, with an emphasis in trans care. Also, with a little bit of my personal story, is I'm trans as well. And so just over the last 3 years of my own transition, I just kind of felt it pertinent to start like really standing up and going to the legislator and really kind of just voicing my concern about these bills and how hurtful they are.
So first, we have to start with Senator Matt McKee, talking about hurtful, asking you a very controversial question, a very personal question. How did that make you feel?
It was really degrading, to be honest with you. You know, just having like, coming out there with like lived experience, being able to be like, show like what my profession, like how I help the community, and just like all like my expertise in the area, just be kind of singled down to a single body part was really probably the most publicly humiliating thing I've ever experienced.
So what have you been, what do you tell people when they have a question like that, or when they are, you know, watching this committee meeting going, you know, like, How does that make a person feel?
No, sure. It really, it's like I said, dehumanizing. Generally, I try to provide more of an atmosphere of education. And then if there any type of question like that ever does like pop up, I generally obviously address it and say kind of like why this is probably not potentially a great question to ask. And so, and really kind of distract and use that as a form of education. So.
Okay. Doctor, lead sponsor of the bill, Gary Stubblefield, said that this bill is about protecting children. How do you respond to that claim? You have children of your own.
Yeah, for sure. I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they're both spoiled rotten. But like this bill is really more about targeting trans youth, and that the trans youth group is already such a marginalized group, and it's already having a hard time accessing resources and care. And it's like we already have 20 American institutions that have guidelines that address trans youth and also trans adults and what the appropriate care and guidelines are. And so the fact that Senator Stubblefield wants to use a copycat bill and that's like just going around and trying to press his own agenda, when I don't think he truly has sat down and really spoke with the community or community leaders to really see like why this is harmful, it's very disheartening, especially for just across the U.S. in general and also for Arkansas constituents.
Now, this bill would let anyone sue a doctor up to 30 years as it's written right now, but they're trying to change it to 15 years after surgery if they can prove damages. As the owner of the pharmacy, are there any concerns that former patients might seek damages against you 3 decades down the road, or 15 if they change the wording?
No, for sure. So the issue here is like, the pharmacy will never, or even myself or current practitioners will not start providing care unless it just absolutely becomes illegal to do so. A lot of this bill is just fear mongering. But a big thing they kept on saying is like to use these words, genital mutilation. That just doesn't happen. First of all, trans youth surgeries just don't happen. They keep bringing it up to cause fear mongering and scaring. To even actually get surgeries as an adult is actually a very hard process. It's very costly. B, there's a lot of gatekeeping when it comes to insurance and actually getting those surgeries scheduled. C, there's a lot of downtime with it. A lot of people just don't have the time to actually recover for it and keep going. And then also you have to think about a lot of times the trans community is socially, economically disadvantaged. It's not like they just have thousands of dollars set aside to go get a surgery. So to think that even an adult has a hard time to go get a surgery, then to think, a child could just go up to any doctor and have a gender confirming surgery done is ludicrous, to be honest with you. And so I just wish, once again, that we would become a little bit more educated and we'd sit down with our community leaders of that group that's being affected and really talk to them.
Can you talk a little bit about the care that you do provide and the type of care that a lot of Arkansans are seeking, even youth?
No, for sure. So as a pharmacy, we dispense out hormone replacement therapy and puberty suppressing drugs. Also, we're just a good place for resources, whether if it's we're looking at name change or gender change, or we're just having some questions about what HRT or which HRT does not do, or what are some appropriate puberty suppression drugs, or the cost, or just there are so many, or what are the questions we have about social transitioning, what surgeries are out there. So I think that one thing is too, that there's this misconception that every transition has a start point and a stop point with everything in between. But in general, most transgender individuals have their own specific goals that they have in mind. And so some of those goals might be just a social transition. Some of those goals might include hormone replacement therapy. Some of those goals might require surgical intervention if they feel like it. But every person is different on what they want to achieve. So.
Now, there are multiple bills like this one going through Arkansas and other state legislatures right now, including Oklahoma now. Do you feel that this is a coordinated effort? And why is there suddenly so much legislation around gender-affirming care this year?
Once again, I feel like it's easy to it's easy to attack a marginalized community, and the transgender community is very vulnerable. It's not easy to transition, and the social stigmatization of these bills really just hurts those individuals that much more. And so it really is a coordinated effort by certain institutions, but it's just really sad because all it's doing is it's really hurting people when, especially the country and even Arkansas for that matter, has so many larger issues to tackle, like the unsheltered population or food insecurity for children or our infrastructure, our roads. I mean, there's so many other things that we could be focusing on, but we want to waste taxpayers' dollars and attack an already disadvantaged community. And so it's very frustrating and very sad. And especially, once again, to be able up there, is my first time going into the legislature or the Senate and being want to voice my concern to be to the point where it's like none of that matters. I just get asked a very humiliating question, and then I get like, oh, no more questions. And so it's I don't know. It's just really sad.
Is there anything we forgot to ask you that you think that Arkansans should be aware of?
That even though it seems like especially the LGBT community and the trans community, or any minority community for that matter, feels like we keep getting attacked. Because I mean, even it was reproductive rights just several months ago. It's like we do take we take several steps forward, and we may take a few steps back, but we're still making progress. And so we have way more resources and way more guidance available today than others. And I really applaud anyone, or if you have any questions, there are national guidelines out there called WPATH. Just take a second, review them, ask a friend. There's just so much other knowledge out there, and so many American institutions that already have guidelines out there. So.
All right, Dr. Gwendolyn Herzig with the Park West Pharmacy, thank you so much for joining us to talk about Senate Bill 199 today on 4029 News on the Record.
I guess what I wanted to ask is, with where you're at now and the platforms that we have, what is something that you, I guess, really want to express to trans youth, or even just like would have wanted to know yourself as a youth trying to navigate this crazy world?
Google is going to be your best friend. And it's easy. You type in your question, what does transgender mean? Articles after articles after articles come up. Google is your best friend, especially in today's day and age where everyone has a supercomputer in their hand. And yes, it's terrifying, but don't be afraid to be yourself. You have to stand true in who you are as a person, or you're going to let them win. You're going to let the ones who hate us win. And we can't let that happen. So be true in your convictions, be true to who you feel you are in your heart. And like I said, Google is free. Educate yourself. It's not that hard. It really isn't. There are ways to find misinformation and to debunk that misinformation. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to challenge certain things. Yeah, they're going to say don't do that, or don't say that, or don't ask that. Do it anyway. Challenge them. I know it's easier said than done, but that's what we have to do in order to progress.
Yeah. Alura.
Oh,
sorry, continue.
I hope that I am able to show especially trans youth, that it gets better, it gets easier.
It really does.
It gets, I want to say easier, but it gets better. You find your people, you find the ones who are truly behind you, and you start succeeding the more you're willing to educate yourself on who you are as a person and educate yourself on social issues. It all just starts falling into place. So I will say that it does get better. That's what I want the trans youth to know, that it will get better. It does get better, but we have to keep fighting for it to get truly 100% better for everyone.
So that kind of leads into the question I was going to ask Laura. With all the negative news and headlines and everything in regards to our community going around, what is something that keeps you positive and hopeful?
Love. Love keeps me positive. Love keeps me hopeful. Not just love for another person, but love for myself. I think it's important that individuals truly love who they are and who they're becoming in order for progression to really start happening. What I see with all these laws that are anti-trans and anti-drag, it's hatred. That's all it is. It's straight hatred. So the one thing that keeps me going is my love for myself,
the love that I have for my fellow drag queen and fellow trans brothers and sisters. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me hopeful. Because at the end of the day, love will always win over hate.
That's fantastic. Another question. So you've been doing drag for a while. Drag is an art form. What is something that you're trying to say about yourself through your art form?
That I can be whoever the hell I want to be any given day of the week.
Beautiful.
I do not owe anyone masculinity. I don't owe anyone femininity. I don't owe anyone long hair, long blonde, lustrous hair. I don't owe anything to anyone. What I do owe to someone is to be true to who I am, and I owe that to myself. With my drag, I hope that I am able to tell people that and show people that there's more than one way to live. There's than one way to love. There's more than one way to perform. There's just more than one way of being than what the social norm want us to believe.
Absolutely. And finally, the most important question, what's your brand of lipstick and where can I get it?
I am currently wearing Urban Decay lipstick. I don't remember what color it is. I just say it's brown. I'm wearing a Revlon lip pencil to go with the lovely shade of brown, but it is an Urban Decay liquid lipstick.
Urban Decay. I'll make a note. Thank you.
I will send you a tube of the lipstick when we're done here.
Fantastic. Right. How's that, Caroline?
That's great. Cynthia, questions? Final questions?
Well, I'll got a couple wrap-up questions. The first one is I'm going to start with Logan. Logan, do you have a faith or a religion?
No, I would say I'm mainly just spiritual.
All right. Aurora, same question to you.
I dabble in a little bit of witchcraft. I would say I'm extremely religious in anything, honestly. I would, if I had to pick a true religion, I would say knowledge is my religion. Because without knowledge, there's
Hell
nothing.
yeah.
All right. Let's ask something that's a little more lighthearted. Okay, let's have a little bit of fun here. All right, I'll start with Logan. Logan, do you have like a favorite memory of recent memory of just coming out or just being yourself in the past year?
In the past year, wow. Well, I mean, a lot for me has happened in the past year. I chose to get sober completely and really just start actually putting, more into myself and really actually like love myself and take that time to learn more about how I can, just live more authentically and happy and all that. So I think, favorite memory for me for sure would just be, honestly getting my own apartment, getting my own place and having that kind of, ability to be like, I did this on my own and I have a space to be completely me and completely express myself and just a safe space to also just, keep proceeding with my transition and not have to worry about really like anything. So it's been awesome.
Aurora, same question. Any positive memory that you've had over the last year?
So the very first thing that came to mind when that question was asked was almost about a year ago to the date, almost about a year ago. I shaved my head. I completely got rid of all my hair. I had about shoulder length hair, and I said, I'm over it. Put it in a ponytail, cut it off. Over it. To me, that was very affirming for myself. Because hair is just hair. Hair doesn't have to be gendered. I always kept longer hair because I always thought that it was more feminine. No, hair is hair. At the end of the day, and that really was very affirming for me, shaving off all my hair. Another
another very happy memory for me was when the first time I went out in drag, and just a full face, no hair, and my natural body. Um, and one of my all-time favorite performers of all time complimented and told me how beautiful I was. And it kind of threw me back because I was just like, "You think I'm pretty? What?" um, uh, so yeah, those are probably my two happiest memories from like the last year that have been very affirming for myself, and then that showed me that I'm headed onto the right track. I'm headed onto the right path.
All right, final question for both of you. Logan, I'll start with you. KFC or Popeye's chicken? Which is your favorite out of those two?
Popeyes.
That is
Yes.
the right answer.
Popeyes.
A two-piece and a biscuit from Popeyes.
Can't go
Now
wrong
I'm
with little
hungry.
Popeyes.
Question for you, Aurora. I think I already know the answer, but let's just hear it officially.
I love me some Popeyes chicken. Now, don't get me wrong, I like KFC just because it's close and down the road from where I live. But if I had to choose, I would two-piece and a biscuit from Popeyes with a large sweet iced tea on the side.
Well, I'll be the third and say, yeah, I love Popeyes. Big Popeyes fan over here too. So
yes,
Popeyes, send us food, okay? If anyone from the Popeyes Corporation is listening, send us food, okay?
Please.
Yeah,
Oh my
Be a
God.
sponsor.
We do need a sponsor. Cynthia, I sent you the link to the next meeting that we're going to have to get into. So my last question for Alura O'Shaunacy is, this is just the final, this is gonna be the final question, and then you're gonna do intros and outros, and then I have some actual questions outside of the show to ask you. So, Alora, when we take all this in and digest all this information that we had today, what can we do like today, what can we do moving forward today to really get where we want to go?
honestly, the same thing we've been doing for years. Educate and stop ignoring the issues. We that is the biggest thing we have to do. We have to stop ignoring history repeating itself. Um, to me, that's one of the biggest things that we can do is just educate, not just each other, but others who may not understand, who are willing to understand. Um, and that's really all we can do. Truthfully, that's what I think is like I said, knowledge is power, and the more knowledge we have, the more power we have to say, stop, this isn't okay.
Oh my God, Aria, that was incredible. Thanks for joining us today, as always.
I had a blast. Thank you for having me.
As always. Cynthia, Virgo the Vixen, thanks for being here with us.
Yep, just remember, who's your vixen? Bye-bye.
And Logan Young, who joined us today as our guest co-host. What a great job you did. Thanks so much.
Thanks. I really appreciate everything and all the support and just the experience to be able to be with all you lovely women. And I hope y'all stay golden. Have a beautiful rest of your weekend.
And Alura O'Shaunacy, thanks so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come on your podcast and really say what I had to say. Like I said on Facebook when we were doing promoting this, I said, I'm Alura O'Shaunacy and I've got something to say. So again, thank you so much for letting me voice my opinions.
Absolutely. Okay, awesome. All right, Cynthia, I'll see you in just a minute. Laura, I'll message you. Logan, thanks so much for being here with us.
Thanks,
I really
guys.
enjoyed
It
it.
was wonderful to meet all y'all.
Changing
Thank
out
you.
outfits and all that. So just give me about five minutes roughly.
Sorry about the internet connection, but we made it work. So,
Killing it.
all right, everyone.
y'all.
We'll see you soon. Okay, bye. Bye, Laura. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.